Welcome to Cutting Edge Web Content Development, the podcast where we delve into the world of CMS systems and their crucial role in website and web content development. In each episode, we'll explore the reasons why founders, CEOs, CTOs, and CMOs of web content development companies need CMS systems to thrive in the digital landscape. Get ready to uncover the secrets behind successful website management, content creation, and seamless user experiences. Here's your host, Jonathan Ames.
Welcome to Cutting Edge Web Content Development, a podcast by ButterCMS. Here we share insights on the intersection of content and web development, how you can align these two often competing forces to improve efficiency and business results. Joining us in this episode is Adam Preston, the head of SEO at Summit. Adam, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and kind of some of the successes you've had in SEO that help our listeners get to know you.
Great. Yeah. So I've worked in the SEO in the online industry for, I think, 12 to 13 years now. I've worked with a number of different brands in-house as well as agencies and sort of supported, especially in the UK, a lot of sort of the larger retailers across the UK. So in terms of successes, I guess something that I'm going to come on to is later on in this podcast, but I've done hundreds really. Website migrations is one of the key things really I've worked on. And I guess even one of the first sort of migrations I did maybe sort of 8, 9, 10 years ago now. I guess one of the main worries that people have when they migrate and sort of come to a migration is that we're going to lose web traffic, we're going to lose SEO traffic and SEO performance. And I think, especially coming to my first one, and I was actually the main person sort of on in-house at a client-side role in a retailer. Obviously, that was a big issue. We're changing the domain, we're changing the design, we're changing the CMS, completely everything. And obviously, there's a lot of worry around are we going to lose market position because we're quite a dominant retailer at the time. And actually, within I think 2 to 3 weeks, we actually bounced back and had a better performance and better SEO traffic than we did pre-migration, which is, I've done a lot of these and that doesn't happen very often. So I think it's my first one. It was a great experience and a great time, but I've done a lot of different ones of these and, sometimes good, sometimes bad. And I think, that's definitely one of the best ones I've done there. And I guess another key thing we've done recently is actually work at one of our key clients. We were just recognized in sort of a UK retail sort of award thing where they look at SEO visibility across all of the UK retailers and who's grown the most year on year. And our client, I think, grew 1,400% year on year in SEO visibility. Was like number one across the UK in that. So I guess from a UK point of view, our client is a leading growth SEO retailer in the UK year on year, which is really good to see that sort of recognised by an independent body. And our client was very happy with that. And obviously they'd already seen some of the results there anyway, but was very happy to share that across all of their networks and that those are the ones that have grown more than anyone year on year.
Yeah, congratulations, Adam. That's a hard award to get, and especially in an industry like retail, which it's really cutthroat, a lot of competition there.
Definitely.
Maybe from a strategy point, you talked about a couple of reasons people might want to migrate their domain. One, you're switching CMS, maybe switching your domain names. What are some other common reasons that someone would want to migrate?
Yeah, so we've come across many different reasons that people do, and I think sometimes the mixture, but sometimes several key themes. So sometimes it's an old CMS, something that's been using for a long time, and they've probably been building and had several errors, and sometimes sort of sticking plasters on that, and you go, actually, right now it's starting to fall to pieces. That you get bugs here and there, and actually they need something new, and they go out into the market and go, right, okay, what's going to better suit our needs? And sometimes that's because, as I say, they've just been on that one platform for a long time, and maybe the business has changed a little bit. Sometimes the business is growing, so they might start on a smaller platform or something simple like a WordPress or Shopify, and then actually the business growth actually needs something a lot bigger to actually maintain a much bigger traffic website and much more active website. Sometimes a rebrand. So there's been quite a lot of rebrands where it's like, again, starts with a smaller brand and actually they decide, something different is, rebrands need to sort of push that brand further, and therefore that might require domain change. So therefore that's other challenges that come with it. And sometimes it might be they're launching a new service or product or something that they want to give. And actually the platform that they're on doesn't sort of meet those needs. It might be that they start launching events and they can't do that on what they've currently got. And sometimes just a bit of a refresh in terms of the design. So, if you look back at, websites from, 20 years ago, they're very, very different to what they do now in terms of capabilities and, using JavaScript for the design. Sort of a lot of sites are very funky now compared to sort of basic HTML that we used to see. So that changes all the time. And I think people just want to sort of keep with the times and look fresh, look fancy, sort of be a leading sort of site that people want to engage with.
Mm-hmm. So if someone decides they are going to migrate to a new domain, a new CMS, or for some other reason, like you mentioned, how can they do that? What are some strategies they could use to make that migration smooth without impacting their SEO, or maybe even to improve it?
Yeah, so I think the key thing and what we find where we get the best results is just really, really strong planning, and sometimes even having sort of a project manager that's really key to that, rather than sort of sometimes it'll just be individual sort of different people working on it, and sort of developers will work in a silo, just sort of go, right, okay, we need a new website, they go off and start working on that. But the key thing is just making sure it's a really robust plan and pulling all the key stakeholders together in that, so that plan is overlaid with everything. So we've got a clear Gantt chart of like how that's going to be laid out from a development point of view and different aspects, when different parts that will be available, and different times when maybe the marketing team will be able to go in and review the things that they require available and they're working as it should be. Also sort of even in the lead up to that, making sure teams such as marketing are involved in the decision-making process of what CMS we're going to, because you don't want to get 3 months down the line and realize that the new CMS doesn't have the functionality available to do certain things that the marketing team need. And then that's when a lot of issues happen in terms of the delays and things, because actually, right, we need to work around how we're going to achieve what's needed. So I think that's one of the key things really is the planning to start with, and also making sure there's things such as we need to make sure that we plan for issues and problems and delays, because I think I'd say 99% of the migrations I've been involved in have been delayed. Sometimes that's 2 weeks, sometimes that's been up to 18 months because of various different reasons. So I think it's also a case of being realistic with that plan as well, and not being think, right, okay, no, let's do it in 6 months because we can get it over the line quicker. Sometimes that might really be a lot longer. And I think part of that plan as well is making sure there's a good length of time between the site being finished and the site actually going live, because again, we need that sort of new user acceptance testing to make sure we go through and click on a website and you click on a product or whatever it might be, and add it basket. Is that actually working as it should be? Is the tracking working? Is all the sort of marketing piece that we need working? Because a lot of the time there'll be products missing, or images missing, or buttons don't quite work as they should do, and all those little styling pieces that you sort of need to sort of go through and would check. And I think again, that's one of the reasons why we see delayed. And I think sometimes, and again, one of the reasons that causes issues in performance and why we see a bigger drop off is because we get to a week before they're meant to launch, and it's like, right, okay, I know we've got a big list of things that the SEO team wants to do, but what the deal breakers, because we're not going to get through all of them. So therefore, you sort of then try to choose actually what's sort of minimal viable product, and actually what's going to stripping out all the things that we'd see a performance increase from. It's just like what's going to stop us going live, what's going to kill the website, make sure they're sorted. And that stuff that happens quite a lot, and it's where we get into situations where we do see a drop off inevitably, just because we have to strip out features, we have to strip out content, we have to strip out pages, and things that get done right. So I think that's I guess that making sure that room for planning is where we really sort of improve best. And again, when I mentioned earlier about the migration where we did see a performance improvement after a few weeks, it was first it was in-house, so I had a bit more control over that versus what we do over the agency. But it was a really very detailed plan and very detailed sort of team that were going through that, doing that really well. And I think we've got everything in there, made the site better. And sometimes we don't see that as well. I think as well, like there's key things that have to be done, make sure performance it does. So redirects being one thing. So making sure there's 301 redirects set up, going to the right pages of the new website. Sometimes we see either no redirects done whatsoever. There was a recent website in the UK called Wiggle, and they did a migration to a new domain and new web design CMS, and they didn't put any redirects in, or very few. So essentially all the pages before were just, and all the traffic and the value of those from an SEO point of view were just completely lost. So that was, it had a huge impact. It lost maybe 90% of their traffic overnight, and didn't really get that back. And I think that's one of the things that we focus on third, is making sure those redirects done and not just done to the homepage, or not done just for category, actually done page to page. And it takes a lot of time, but the sort of results for that are evident afterwards. And, I think it's a lot of the strategy and beforehand they're going, right, okay, what pages do well, what pages are driving value for us? And that's from SEO, from PPC, and making sure we don't lose on pages, making sure we don't lose content and features and what makes those pages do well. Make sure we keep those on the new site as well. So that's where there's marketing and development and sort of other teams come in at the start, and in that planning stage, you go, what do we need to keep? What can we remove? What can we change? And sort of make sure we don't change too much. And sometimes it's that if you're going to change something too drastically, start doing some testing on the current site beforehand, because you might say, right, okay, a new site, let's just completely change our navigation because we think that looks cool. But actually, it might not be great from a user perspective, and you might lose customers and things like that because of it. But because you're changing so much, you might not know. So if you do the testing beforehand, then go, right, okay, these are things you want to add to the new site. At least you're not changing things without knowing why you're doing it and what the impact's going to be of that. So I think, the key to it all is that planning, but also making sure you're doing all those different aspects that are really important to an SEO migration. And lastly is because we expect it to be a drop. There's going to be a drop at some point. It's actually also forecasting for that as well. So, and setting expectations with sort of business owners and things that, we want to make a change. The long-term view of this is great. We're doing it for good reasons, but we are going to lose some traffic. So how do we mitigate that? Do we put some more into paid advertising? Do we push on social? What can we do just to make sure we don't sort of lose those customers in that short period of time, or actually anticipate it to be slightly longer than maybe you expect, just so you've got that sort of contingency plan in place.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned setting expectations. That's really important, especially for people at the C-suite who may not know how long it takes to do a migration, some of the possible downsides to it and how that'll look over time. Two key points that I wanted to ask you in this process of migration. You mentioned, making sure the key stakeholders are involved right up front. I'd like to ask you, who are those key stakeholders, let's say in a retail or an e-commerce environment, that need to be involved, talking over that migration in the beginning? And then as far as migrations go, sometimes people, they look at it and they say, if we're going to switch, domain, or we're going to switch CMS, maybe we're going to do a lift and shift first, where we're just simply going to take the site and basically duplicate it over to this new domain, this new CMS, and port it. And once that's done, then we'll look at doing a redesign. And some people are like, let's do it all at the same time, hammer it all out and launch it all at once. So your thoughts on those two things, key stakeholders, and then, better to lift and shift or better to do it all at once?
Cool. Yep. So in terms of key stakeholders, I think it's just making sure there's some representative from various departments. What we find that to be is marketing, and sometimes marketing might be SEO, it might be PPC, and maybe affiliates and whatever channels you're sort of managing, social as well within that. So you can't just, forget various channels, because everyone sort of has something that they may need in that. Obviously, from development, is key from there. And then, it depends, you probably have some like trading team. So responsible for sort of the stock and the stock management and what that needs to look like and how that needs to function on the site as well. And then potentially people from operations and sort of logistics. So again, one of the first ones we did was issues with sort of how the delivery functionality works within it as well. And they just really need to be involved in like, what's that checkout process look like as well. And then design as well obviously needs to come in early on as well, because again, the design functionality there that they can be involved with. Then also even, making sure people at finance and things are in there, because, we need to sort of, as we said about setting expectations, from my experience with finance manager, very keen on why, if the migration costs money upfront, you pay for a new CMS or, design and project and people doing that, what's the return that's going to be on that? So again, we need to sort of work it out before we even, start building, start sort of doing anything. It's what's it going to bring in. So they're key just consistently throughout the process. All those people need to be involved. And again, it's pretty much any, I think again, that from when I was working internally, even like customer service and having someone from that team, because you've got a chatbot, and how does that function? Has it got the ability to bring that in? And, how do customers find the contact details? What do you want to show? And I think some of the big wheels, like Amazon, for example, it's really hard to find, a contact number or contact details. And that's obviously something that's been decided upon, but, you need that team in there to know, what information we want to give and how we want that to work, how we want that to function in our team, how do we make that life easier as well. Like, it's not just a case of, how do we bring customers to the site, but actually how do we improve internal processes? So, all the different things we've got internally, if we have customer service, and how can we, if we change it so much, why do we make it better for them? And they can put their opinions into what, CMS we've got and what would be great for them, because most of the time there's something usually missing. Someone's always got something that'll make their life better. So can we do it about this? So I think having all those are involved are key. And so we've been involved a few various ones out, or they come in a bit late and they come in at different stages. And then, there's invariably things that need to, that's what pauses will happen where someone goes, right, finally coming and go, well, I need information about this. And therefore we have to stop working, go and find that. So, all those people are, I'm really keen.
And so as far as the second question of lift and shift versus redesign and switching domain or CMS at the same time, what's your opinion on that?
So I've been through both, and I think that they've both got plus and minuses to it. I think obviously they're doing it in one go, I think is better used from a resource point of view, but it really amps up the risk. So I think that, and as I mentioned earlier about, if we decide to change navigation and change the number of pages and page design and different things, so it's more risk because you're not testing that, and you're not testing, are we doing that just because we think it looks nice, or are we doing that because that will work better for our customer? And, breaking that up and actually, doing let's just move what we've got onto the new CMS first and then start doing those tweaks and gradually change over time is usually better and a safer thing to go about, because we know firstly, right, we know nothing's changed from a URL point of view, hopefully nothing's changing from a domain, and then it's sort of, customers won't really tell. In some cases, we've done things and customers don't even know anything changed really, which is great. And then you can start saying, right, we've got this extra functionality now, so start sort of doing it different chunks over time. It's something that Google does recommend trying to do that. So again, we've got a site we've done recently, they wanted to change the domain and then they changed the CMS. So they actually did the domain first, because let's just get that, or decouple that from everything else we're doing rather than doing everything all in one go. So I do think it's the best approach, but it's a slower and sort of more methodical approach. And sometimes, again, as mentioned, the C-suite, we need this done in 6 months' time. We need this done in this time. This is my deadline. I need everything changed. I need a rebrand done. So it's trying to balance that and those expectations, but it makes things easier because you've got smaller little chunks of projects rather than it just being this everyone working towards one thing. And as I mentioned before about delays, because everyone's got this 6 month or whatever, timeline that we want this website done by, everyone sort of, you tend to start off a bit slower and you're like, we've got ages of time, and then everything starts to ramp up in the last 2 months, and so you start finding errors and different things, and therefore people get under a lot of pressure and then working really hard towards the end, and things are missed. Whereas if you do it in smaller chunks, people are working to much smaller tighter sort of little project times, and things gets done a little bit more efficiently, I find, doing that. So I would prefer to do that, but there's always a conversation with people sort of a bit how if we were making the ultimate decisions that want it done a bit quicker. And that is the case, that planning is much, much more key, because there's so much more going into that one thing. And I think being clear on your measurement and what all the different changes you're making and how you measure the impact of those. So as I say, if you're changing navigation, or you're changing design, or changing layout of a page, what are you using to test whether that's successful or not? Because you're changing all these different things, and there will be ultimately changes in performance. So how do we then identify, if you're changing so much at once, we need to know how we identify whether all those different things have been a success or not, whether the pages are faster than they were before, or whether the bounce rate's gone up or gone down, or whether the traffic's gone up or down, or conversion rate's gone up or down by a page. When you sort of try and isolate that and have a robust testing plan in place post-launch to know, right, do we need to change back some of these things? Are all these changes right? Actually need to tweak it. Like that's sort of the key post bit to know, right, okay, you need to know sort of what is the next steps, because I'd say I don't think any website's launched and made all those changes in one go and gone completely smooth, and everyone go, brilliant, everything's fine, everything's exactly the way it needs to go. Let's just sort of sit and relax after 6 months. There's always going to be something, but I think in a lot of my experience, it's been really, people haven't had that plan, and therefore knowing what's actually, if conversion rates down, for example, like Well, is that because we've changed the design? Is that because we're getting less traffic? Is that because for a period, PPC spend might be higher because if it's a new domain, it might have to get reapproved. So is that costing? Is that why it is? Like it's not clear. So therefore, if you want to make all those things, be very, very clear on how you're going to test that, and therefore if there's tweaks following it.
Yeah, good points. So you've talked about a few possible problems. What are other common mistakes you see when people are migrating platforms? And what are some tactics that people can use to avoid those or fix them if they do happen?
Yes, so I think one thing is missing or not including a lot of SEO of best practice elements within the new sites. I think there's things such as making sure that they've got like a robots.txt file that sort of it doesn't block bots or doesn't allow too much into it. Not including, I've seen a lot of time launch a new site and not having an XML sitemap on the website. So therefore that helps Google crawl all these new pages that it has to discover. It might not have canonical sort of settings set up, for example, and therefore they're going to know which pages to, it wants indexing for certain things. But there's lots of all these different sort of best practice things, or you might be able to set metadata, for example, things like this. So some of these things tend to be missed off. And what I've found, and I used to work with a development company who built websites, and I came in supporting these sites from an SEO point of view. And one of the key things I noticed to begin with was that they were missing some of these things every time they launched. They might not add redirects, or they might not have a robots or text file or whatever. So I gave them a bit of almost like a cheat sheet of these are all the things that you have to have as part of the build. Basically, they have to be in there. So when you launch a new website, you need all these things, and therefore they're non-negotiables. They need to be set up. And therefore, as a best practice basics, when you sort of build that site, is if you've got something like that, you know that those things are in there to start with, and that's always there. So we set when we do a migration, what we always set something like that to begin with and send that to developers and go, these are the things we want as part of a CMS, but also, they've got that there when they start building. We remind them to constantly check back at that and build those things in. So that's the key thing that we try and do and try and have. And I say it should be something that I guess developers always have is it's like, what are those best practice basics? And then other things have been either when they're building the test site or the new site on a sort of test domain, they've not blocked it. So that site has been indexed within Google because I've not put any block to stop that from happening. So there's got the test site there available for anyone to visit, or even, putting a password on there or what that might be, or putting a, say, robots.txt block. But then on the other side of it, not removing that robots.txt block when the site goes live. So it's gone live, but then it's not been able to be indexed. So we've seen that happen as well. And again, I've had to sort of go by and chase that. And there's things such as when you do a domain change, Google, if you set up Google Search Console, you can say to Google, actually, this domain has moved from here to here. So it indicates to them that as this site move happening, this domain has changed. Get people getting to do things like that, or not submitting, so not doing the Search Console part of things as well. It does really help get the site indexed a lot quicker and get traffic coming a lot quicker as well. So I think that's a key thing to consider. And as I said, I mentioned it earlier, but it's really key. It's not skipping on things that we think essential or we think that are going to have an impact on because we're hitting a deadline. Actually, we're making sure that we have that buffer time to make sure we can get everything done. And so part of that, making sure we don't set the deadline like really near to a peak time or something like that. Because I think what we've seen before is some of our clients have got a peak in November time. They've set a migration to go live in October, and then it's not quite hit that. So either they rush them to get live before peak, which then the peak for this might not be as great, or then they'll delay it till afterwards. That delay then is like 6 months or something like that because they've have to wait until after that peak time. So make sure you sort of plan it when traffic starts to go down and give yourself a good lead of buffer before actually you get to that peak time. You think, well, we need to have it live by that. So that could be a bit of an issue in terms of when you actually decide you want to do that migration.
Yeah, don't launch it on a Friday afternoon and then leave the office.
Yeah. I've seen that many a time.
The little things, those are all important. Okay, one other thing when you're thinking of SEO, now you've got these crossovers between your platforms and your social channels. What are some tactics you might suggest with multi-platform SEO? So getting between your site and other locations.
So I think one of the things we're trying to consider is making sure everything's like when we built that new website, it is really shareable and easy to share. So obviously it's nature of social media and other social platforms that a site might interact with. Want to make sure that the site's easy set up to do that. So for example, how shareable the videos or what are you using to sort of put videos on the website? What are you using from a sort of structured data point of view? So using open graph tags and Twitter open graph data and things like that. So if anyone does share on social, actually it much nicer, more presentable way. And also if as well in terms of sort of from a interacting with your customers and notification point of view on social, if you are making a domain change or a brand change, how do we sort of communicate that on those platforms as well? Because we had a rebrand quite recently, and one thing is the change the brand name and sort of tried to put some messaging on and see, but our click-through rate completely fell through the roof. People who were searching for that previous brand, when they saw the new brand name, and well, that's not what I would have searched for. And so I tried to look around elsewhere. So how do you communicate that on social and other things as well? But I think also just trying to be as fluid between sort of the content and those platforms as possible. So how do we make sure like what we've got can be translated onto mobile or onto on the social, and a lot of it's through speed. So again, people will visit us via various different platforms, and especially most of our websites that we work on now, the highest percent of the traffic is through mobile. So that tends to be we want to sort of provide a very different experience to what we do on desktop, because people do interact in different ways. So everything we do is mobile first. And it's just be key to like actually make something. How do we sort of interact with gestures and different things like that on a mobile versus sort of people who interact on desktop? It tends to be very, very, very different now. So we just need to sort of we tend to make sure that's involved in part of the testing as well, because it's completely different. And if we're going to approach new CMS, like we need to make sure it's got those capabilities of sort of future proofing, because everything, how people browse and how people interact with the internet and things are changing very much. And especially, people much younger than me, do things in much different ways now, and everyone's, interacting with stuff on TikTok and various through video. And, people, I think there's a lot of conversation right now how people are using TikTok as a search engine. So, versus going to Google. So a lot people will go on TikTok and like how look at recipes or looking for fashion things, or things they would use to look in Google. Like how do we get into that as well? Make sure our website is available to actually get into those platforms. That's some of that from a market point of view, but some, we need to facilitate the website to be able to sort of pull that traffic back into the website journey as well. But, we do know now customers interact with brands completely on social, and they don't even go to the website. And like, for example, with TikTok or Instagram, there's TikTok shops and Instagram shops. So you can follow a brand, interact with them, look at their content, and buy their products without ever looking at their website or visiting their website whatsoever. So we're, a couple of sites working right now, we're planning for that and planning how we actually move certain elements of the shop onto TikTok and other platforms, because it's not just, it's no good these days just having a website and that's it. You need to have involved in those other things are growing at different times. So there's lots of testing with some of these new things. But if you're not there, you can't test and you can't sort of, get in the right place.
Yeah, these things, a lot of times customers see them from the perspective of mergers and acquisitions. So company A merged or acquired company B. So they go and do a search, say, on social, for company A, which they've always used, and suddenly company A no longer exists, or it's rebranded as company B. So you really have to be sensitive to that, because your customers may not know, and suddenly they're looking around, they can't find you, they think you went out of business. So really important, those kind of transitions there for anyone doing acquisitions or mergers. So tell me, this is a part I love from each individual guest I have on here, just ask a few career questions, from your career. I always ask this: what is it, if you could go back in time and talk to yourself at the beginning of your career, what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
It's a great question. I think it would be I think I didn't start out in SEO. I started online, but more from a merchandise point of view, and working on websites with that. And I think trying to get into this a lot quicker and sort of start and probably start testing and building my own websites quicker. I did start doing that later on in my career, and I think I learned quite a lot from doing that. I sort of just set up my own sites, started running some tests, setting up some landing pages, sort of playing with design, playing with CSS and HTML, and I was really engaged with that. For me, that's where I got really interested in online, digital and SEO. I think that really helped sort of set me into where I ended up going in my career, and happened to more of a technical space. So I think getting into that as early as possible, great. And also when I went to uni, I looked at certain things I did. I sort of chose more of a general thing, but actually I'm prepared to do sort of much more sort of technical marketing role. I think, and also just exploring other channels area as well. I stayed in SEO for quite a while, and at one point I sort of went freelance and did a lot of different things. So I did a bit of social and PPC and I say web builds and tracking and data analysis and all sorts of different things. And that sort of much more wide approach and wider views sort of helped with my sort of career and knowledge and what advice I could give to my clients, because I know how SEO interacted with PPC a lot more, and I could give advice on various different things. So that helped as well. So I'll say it's just more trying to be clear on what I wanted to do and the career I wanted to do. Started just play about and testing and just doing stuff in my own time that I enjoyed. I think that's probably what I'll try and do. And hopefully I'll be maybe in a little bit of a better place, but who knows?
Good advice. So where do you find your inspiration now? What are your sources of, ideas and such and learning?
I tend to a few different things. I read a lot of books, so a lot of different marketing books, and I sort of enjoyed doing that. So I think it's one that I really enjoyed, sort of creating a story brand. It's just thought about more about the branding side, but it's just really engaging how customers engage with. We talk about what you do and what you're trying to push, and it sort of gives you lessons across all different digital marketing channels, really, and how you do that. So I like doing that and have a bit of quiet time, but a lot of it tends to be online and looking on Twitter. I follow a lot of different SEO and marketing and people, and I think there's a lot of conversation on there as well. So get involved in that, and I think one of the best ways to keep abreast of constant things that happen. So people will post research that they're doing, or there's different questions and different opinions, and they'll try and get involved in some of that as well. And not only on Twitter/X, I guess now, but also Reddit as well. I think that's another area where you see a lot of different stories, and some of it interesting, and some of it a bit. It gives you a view of all different types of SEO people, I guess, out there, different levels of where they are. And I think I should try and get involved, and I've got quite a lot of experience, and I'll try and impart some of my experience in that as well. It helps sort of just, I tend to be outside aware of this. I'm just interested, and I'll go on and see what people talk about, what they're doing. It's just a way as well to look at different industries, actually people are running tests that I could have run, but actually they've done it, and therefore I can find out what those different results are. I find that quite interesting. And I look up various different blogs. So, things such as Moz, Search Engine Roundtable, Google, blog and forums as well. Just find really interesting, tend to take a little bit of time on like a Friday sometimes. It's all right, at the end of the week, let's just digest and just take a look at what's happening in the industry and have a look around. But those 10 things, tend to help. And I think that, especially that social and people constantly post on there, there's so many ideas, and SEO changes so much and marketing changes so much that sort of live feed of people doing something and seeing, especially with like Google updates, you'll tend to get a big influx of people going, my website just died, like what's happened, all the traffic's gone. So it sort of gives you a bit of pre-warning that something might be coming, especially what we tend to find is the US, things will roll out in the US first and then sort of move across to the UK, various other countries. So if you start seeing something happening in the US, start to get worried, or sometimes it's positive, or you see positive result outside. But that live feedback really great.
Well, tell us now about Summit. Just give us an idea of where you work and kind of what they do there.
Cool. Yes, I work for a company called Summit, and they are based in the UK, up in a little sort of city called Hull in the north. We've been active for over 20 years. So started out, a long time ago. We've always worked within sort of retail clients primarily, and retail and online. So we cover a number of digital marketing channels, primarily SEO, paid search, and affiliates. So keep it sort of really tight within those, and sort of a lot of expertise there. We work with a lot of our UK's largest retailers, really focus on big retail. So we worked in the UK. Listeners probably know a lot more about these, but it's on massive clients in the UK, such as Argos, Summers, H. Samuel, got really big sort of leading retail brands, and that's sort of where our niche is and where we deliver a lot of value. We also have sort of a sister company or a product called Productcaster, which is a sort of leading CSS customer shopping comparison shopping service. So what we do find, well, we got a lot of customers onto there. We tend to save about 10% to 20% on cost per click on shopping. And we've got sort of a massive range of clients. I'm sort of one of the sort of Europe's leading on there. So sort of another, we've got tools as well as sort of just offering that service, so we can offer additional sort of value to some of our customers through that as well. Tend to be very data led in terms of how we approach stuff, very test and learn, and try and sort of everything we do is proving it, giving a business case, doing it. I think from an SEO point of view, we're not very much. We have a lot of clients that come across and they say, "Oh, we don't understand what we're being told. We just sort of get told this and that, and we just leave it to them. We don't really get much data." We start off by setting a really strong report and clear view on what KPIs we're testing. Everything we do is tested based on sort of layers of what we're seeing, and we try to be very clear at communicating what we're doing and why we're doing it and what the benefit is, and not trying to speak on SEO speak. Again, you get a lot of clients say, "Oh, SEO is just a black box. I don't understand what it is." And it's very clear. Just we try and make a better website for a customer. That's essentially it. It needs to be fast. It needs to be informational, and it needs to have a good brand. And I think that's one of the good things. We're very clear. And also what we don't tend to have is everyone who works on a client is in detail, is a technician. They understand SEO. We don't sort of have sort of these account managers who speak to the client and don't really know, and then all the other people sort of hidden away in a room. Like I deal with the clients, my team will deal with the clients. You speak directly to the person sort of and making those changes. So that tends to be really effective for us. And straight away get an answer. You don't have to go, right, okay, I'll take that away to go speak to the guy who's involved, and then come back and then, right, okay, you've got more questions. Right, I'll go back to it. We just deal with stuff right there and then. And it's really good. So sorry, go on.
Where can people find you online, or where can they connect with Summit or with you?
Yeah, so our website is www.summit.co.uk. Then we've got various different social channels as well, which you'll be able to find on there. We're actually currently going through a website migration of our own. So I think if you went to the website today, I think probably the next week we'll have a new website live as well. So yeah, so practice what I preach, and we're going through that. So yeah, hopefully that goes well. And but yeah, we make a lot of change right there. So yeah, it may be a little bit different than what we see in the website in a couple of days. So hopefully it's a better website and clear and better for my customers. Yeah, that's exciting for us.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the insights, Adam. You provided some great advice on migrations, kind of demystified some of those things. I think anyone who went through this podcast, there's a checklist that you could have made just from what Adam said here. And thank you so much for sharing those insights. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Cutting Edge Web Content Development is brought to you by ButterCMS. To find out how you can build better with Butter, stop wasting dev time, and free your marketers from your legacy CMS, visit ButterCMS.com. Also, make sure to search for Cutting Edge Web Content Development in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at ButterCMS, thank you for listening.